Okay, so we are going on, zooming a little bit out of the arrangement view here, and actually we want to make a copy of these 8 bars and play them another time here. And there are several options of doing that, and one is, using those locators here, selecting the 17 to 25 bars, clicking up into this area up here, right-click, duplicate time. And now we have an exact copy of that area. And I want to take out this shaker loop because I want to add in a pluck sound on top of our pad down here. And quickly open the pad, show our automation. And, I'm going to take the reverb automation line off for now and zoom in. I just want to use a bit less open filters here at the beginning of bar 25. So I'm selecting this area and bringing down everything quite substantially. And I just want to make sure that when we're beginning with bar 25, we're playing lower filters here. And there's another way of doing this. I'm hitting B on my keyboard and we're getting this little pen, and now I can draw automations with the pen. So I'm going down here and keep it more or less like this. It will adjust to the grid we are working on. So if you want it smoother, you can say narrowest, for example. No, then you will have it a bit more refined. Yeah, and going back, hitting B again, we will just keep it like that for now, just making sure we overlap somehow like this. And playing it quickly. Alright, so good enough for now, and now we want to enter another element. So I'm clicking into this area down here, right-click, insert MIDI track, and we are loading up track number 10. Double-click on the track, scrolling up a little to see what we're doing here, and go to Instruments and look up our Ableton library for cheap e-piano. And it already shows something when we are looking for cheap stuff. So we have cheap electronic piano, this sound, and just drag it down here on our MIDI track and drop it. So this is what we are playing, a very short recording of an e-piano. I'm bringing down the gain here and hitting a knob on my keyboard. So this is the sound we're going to use, and I'm going to bring down the volume here a little bit on that sound. Okay, so this is the sound we're going to work with, and we want to play something along our pad chord progression here. So let's quickly take another look into our chord progression. We are working with G sharp, F, D sharp, and C. So any note from the F minor scale would work. And again, if you're not too familiar with working with scales and chord progressions, you should definitely check out our harmony and chord progressions course. And so F could be interesting. And our 5th C could be interesting as well as our 3rd G sharp. So going back to our cheap electronic piano here and creating a MIDI clip over 2 bars, right click, insert MIDI clip, and just putting in a C and putting in an F and putting in a G sharp, and well, let's put these into the 3rd position of the grid and just play them. Okay, let me play around with these notes for a minute here. So I'm putting the G sharp to the back and maybe play it again, duplicate. One more time. Not sure if I'm going to use G sharp, so I'm selecting it and hit 0, deactivate it. Maybe we're using it later. And let's try F an octave lower. And this one a bit shorter. Okay, that's quite nice. Let's drag it longer. Making it a bit louder. Okay, rename the clip to Pluck. Alright, and let's play it out and see how it works with the overall chord progression. And it works nicely now because our chord progression is so stable with F and with C. We could also use G sharp because here we have a little bit of tension when we are playing C instead of C sharp, but we might be able to get away with it. So keeping it like this for now, and going back into our MIDI clip, we can see we're playing this note together with our kick and this one as well. And that actually calls for another instance of our sidechain compressor. Okay, come here. Okay, cut this from here again. And actually going back into our clip here, we can also use a new feature of Ableton 10 where you can see two MIDI clips in the piano roll view, which is very handy for exactly what we're doing here. So I can select this one. Let me quickly go down and close this one. Actually close the macro view here. And we have our pad and our Pluck sound. So if I select both of them, now in the piano roll, we are able to switch between those two clips very easily. If I open it up a little now, you see we have the pads here, and we also have our Pluck. And you see how nicely it sits on those notes. Can go over, and we have ghost notes in the back from our chord, and we have those actual Pluck notes. If we are in our green Pluck clip, and we can move over to our pad clip, the slightly purple one, and we see our pad sound. Nice feature in Ableton 10, and you can play around with it here. Alright, and now you can see another thing here. If I want to just change the way the Pluck behaves in this area, in these two bars, I actually need to change the length of my MIDI clip for the Pluck, because the pads are, I think, 8 bars or something, and our Pluck is just 2 bars. So you see it repeating here and repeating here. Wherever it says the name of the clip is already repeating. So if we really want to take into account that we are playing a different chord in our third chord position and we want to adjust our Pluck, we will have to go back and go onto the MIDI clip here, select 4 bars, or let's select 8 bars actually, since the progression is also lasting for 8 bars, right click and consolidate. And now we have a longer timed clip. Select this one again and hold Shift, select the other one as well. Go into the piano roll view. And now we have those two clips overlapping here. Zooming in a little bit with the magnifier. And you see we can change it now. So let's listen in. Or we could pick another note. Or maybe the upper one, G sharp. And then go down an octave. So this is very handy if you want to come up with little elements that are, using or requiring the same chord progression or scale or something, and you're not sure if you're really there already. And Ableton, starting with version 10, will allow you to add up to 7 of those clips here in this view, which is really nice and useful. Okay, and we're going back to our device now and adding a couple of audio effects behind this electronic piano sound. So we are going to audio effects, and the first thing we want to do, and we will do that on a lot of tracks, is load up an EQ8 and put in a little bit of a low cut to leave room for bass frequencies. And also, since we are playing together with our kick in the first position here, right here, and right here, and actually we can also use this clip feature to show that we are playing together with our kick. If I'm selecting the kick clip and selecting this clip, and we're going into that view, it's easy to see the kick is playing in this pattern, and we are sometimes just hitting together with the kick. So let's place another sidechain here, and we already have it set up in our favorites. Compressor sidechain, right behind. Audio input from the kick. And now this one ducks a little bit whenever the kick is playing. Okay. And let's place another audio effect on here. We have a tool called the Auto Pan, which, if we're dragging it on this track between EQ8 and the sidechain, will allow us to move automatically from our left speaker, from our left ear to our right ear and back. If we are increasing the amount. Solo. If you're on headphones, this is clearly noticeable. Actually, it's going too fast. I'm bringing down the rate, and we are going to take 3 turns over the entire display. And also I'm decreasing the amount, so we're not so far out to the left and to the right. We're still a bit more towards the center. Okay, and now we are going to load up a reverb to create a bit more room on that sound. Okay, maybe a bit less applied, drive it down a bit. And decay time a bit longer, 160, and this is 35. And putting in the low cut. And let's also play around with our little overdrive tool here and try to give it a bit more body. So I'm putting this one before the auto pan, and so keep it around 800 Hertz, 840 Hertz, and drive it down a little. Dynamics up a little bit. So we're creating a bit more upper harmonics here on this overdrive feeling. Play around with the tone. That's kind of nice. And play around with the drive. Okay, let's keep it right here. And now maybe compared to everything else, we have a little too much high frequencies, so we can use another auto filter in the end of our effect chain to take some of those high frequencies out of the sound again. So I'm placing it behind our reverb and compressor sidechain element here and playing around with frequency. We have to see that in the mix with all the other elements. And also, maybe we want to put our EQ8 cutting off low end behind this overdrive, because this one is actually creating new harmonics, and maybe we're beefing up sound that we just cut off. So I'm going to just put this one behind that one, making sure we don't have too many low frequencies here. And let's test this filter with playing it all together. Okay, so we're cutting this position swap here. All right, so let's listen to everything in context and try to adjust our auto filter. So unsoloing cheap electronic piano Pluck. Okay, now it's still very isolated, so I'm taking it to a part where our pad is a bit louder. It's not looped now, so going into the clip, looping that one. So now we can just drag it over and also play it here, because these little lines will always show you when a clip is repeating. Alright, so now we've put in our little Pluck sound here, and let's move over to the next step.